Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Fager-Bediaco. I'm with the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and I am one of 19 national civil rights organizations funded by the Centers for Disease Control to focus on HIV. And I also wear another hat. I do a lot of stuff in hip hop. And so you mentioned about normalizing the conversation around HIV. And so I used to work for Capitol Records, so I know we can make this happen. And so just last week we had this conversation about Rick Ross and him talking about, using Molly and, raping a girl and having sex. So, we're talking about violence against women, we're talking about HIV. How can you help us, particularly in the hip hop community? I've been working with some folks, and how can we have that conversation on a bigger dialogue? How can we bring that to Kaiser can help us get to Viacom, and, we can all sit down with some young leadership and some hip hop artists. How can we do that?
Yeah, I think that we have to do it, and I think it's a big conversation. And I think what happens is things tend to maybe become too casual, and people start to think of things disconnected from their own lives. When you bring it back around to people and say, well, don't you have a mama, and don't you have a sister, and don't you have a... They don't want any bad things to happen to the people that they love. Nobody does. And I think that's kind of what happens. If we could get around to starting to think, and that's why I really love this Empower campaign and how it meets my work with Keep a Child Alive and becoming a bridge so that there's an international conversation, there's a domestic conversation, there's a global conversation. If we could get around to getting past kind of figuring out how things feel like separate and start understanding how it's all one conversation, it's all one thing, it's all one goal and one feeling that we really all have. How many of us would go to the edges of the earth to protect the people that we love? We all would. There's not one person that's excluded from that. So I think you're right. I think it is about having a bigger dialogue. Erica and I have talked about in which ways kind of we start here. We start with knowledge. We start with information. We start with really giving people the opportunity to get introduced to maybe something that's not quite on their radar the way it should be. And then how do we start taking bigger steps to really making that a bigger conversation? How do we get people who are very influential and talk to so many people? That they're our heroes. They're the people that we look up to. They're the ones that we emulate, the way they dress, the way they speak, the things they do. So how do we start doing that? Because everybody's not perfect, and so many people also need to have an opportunity to kind of get turned on because you're like, wow, you know what? I'm kind of not thinking about this the right way. And so it's okay. We can't blame everybody. We have to try to bring us together to have the opportunity to learn because we're all out here learning and becoming more educated and smarter. So I think what you're saying is really super important, and we definitely have it on our list of our phases of where we'll go and how we'll make the conversation bigger and broader. And I think it'll actually be really interesting to see the way that people are moved. Those that might have even been ones that have said things that they shouldn't have said will be moved to feel, completely different when thinking about it on this bigger level for sure. So I feel you, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
My friend, Justine loves CBS Radio of Washington. 2 questions. To Dr. Charles, when and what are the increments of the grants going to be, one for the community? And when can I get the videos so that we can take it out into the community to empower women? That's the first question.
Oh, we're doing one at a time? All right, so I was like, that's
So,
too much. So
they're not mini grants, because
yeah.
I hate a mini grant. You can't do a whole lot with $5,000.
Yeah, exactly. So these grants are up to $25,000 to support innovative projects, and the RFP is available now. The grants will go out in the fall.
Okay, thank you. That's and I have access to the video
And
already?
the video is available to everybody
Immediately
at greaterthan.org. And you can download it. We can get you copies. All of the PSAs are up there as well, and they're going to your network tomorrow.
Yep.
I'm staying.
All right.
The second question. This is it. This is quick. Wait. The other one is in reference to I'm empowered because those are my sisters.
That's right.
But where is anything going to come out that is dealing with that population that is 11 to 14? Because my young sister, yeah, you know, I'm all in your brain. Yeah, adolescent health. Then I'll give it to you, Dr. Quarter. Here.
Okay. Oh,
She said she stole my question.
hi. That's right. I was like, she stole the mic. She stole the question. Hi, I'm honored. I'm Dr. Quarter, but my main focus, I'm a pediatrician, adolescent medicine. I do WOL, Village Talk. I'm also chief of pediatrics at the only hospital here in Southeast Washington where folks don't want to be. Born and raised here. And I also work with CDC and Southern Christian Leadership and BLACA, Black Commission Leadership on AIDS. What's so important with my adolescents, I diagnose at least once or twice a week HIV positive. I had a young lady just last week.
Between 11 and 14?
Yes. She's 15, but I told her, you know, you say, you know, don't do this, don't do that. And she came to me and she's changing her ways. She started running around, you know, running away, etc. And she said, you told me. She came in for a rash. And I just treat for everything, and I'm nosy, so I want to know everything. I don't care if you tell me you're not having sex. If you have a genitalia, you having sex, as far as I'm concerned. I want to know. So when I tested her just for that, and I brought her back, and she said, I just didn't know. She said, and I stopped doing all the things you told me to stop doing, but it still happened. And what I'm now going to do, and this is, you know, she's an honor student now, and she's telling me how she now is doing things that I'm advocating and trying to teach 11 and 12-year-olds. And I said, maybe this is the way that God intended, but you know what? You're bigger than this. You're bigger than AIDS. You're bigger than HIV. And for 40, 50 years on, you can then tell your story. So I'm about trying to have the voice. This video is perfect because most people feel, you know, it's not going to happen to me, and that's all our sisters up there. So I commend you, and I just wish that others like you would step out and be so bold because it's so important, and it's not one of those popular things to talk about. But again, I thank you, and this is wonderful. And thank you, Tina and Dr. Fitzpatrick.
Wow, I think you're bringing up a really important thing, though, that I just want to put our minds on. Actually, we can kind of think about this a little bit because, you know, this age between 11 and 15. I mean, this is a big, you know, it's a lot of transitions. There's a lot of things going on, obviously, in the media and the press all the time. I mean, all we see everywhere is like how much less can we put on so that we can be beautiful. And it's really sad, you know what I mean? And it's perpetuated in every angle. And that's our most vulnerable times, you know, at that age, and you're trying to fit in, and you don't even know much, but you're kind of just caught up in certain scenarios. So I think that's a really interesting point, and even taking this a step further and even going maybe a level younger and accessing, you know, so that it can happen before it happens.
Yep.
Which is what we're talking about, you know, talking all about it. So it's just an interesting thing.
And the
for us
community
to build
grants,
on.
I'm sorry, Alicia, the community grants program also focuses women and girls. So,
You know, and I mentioned in my talk that we launched last week Youth HIV AIDS Awareness Month. And this is the beginning, at least on Capitol Hill, of recognition, you know, of young people and the need for prevention messages and reaching out, and the Empower campaign is perfect timing for this, because now I think we'll see some synergy as it relates to young people and HIV AIDS awareness.
I think we have time for just one last question. I think the mic just went over there.
Good afternoon. My name is Barbara Baylor, and I'm in Congressman Ringel's office. And I first wanted to say to Congresswoman Lee, my other colleague and I, we thank you so much for the legislation, numerous that you put forth, and we've supported that. So thank you for that. And thank you, Ms. Keys, for being here on this important issue. I wanted to ask the question about stigma. I wanted to find out if there was going to be any specific program that you're going to be developing around stigma, and what programs are you going to be doing around that have to do with the Black church? I've done a lot of work with that in the past, and I'm still getting calls from some churches now who are saying we don't really want to deal with that issue because then we might be identified as a church who has people living with AIDS there. And this is just a conversation I was in just about a month ago. So I just wanted to know, when we talk about stigma, everybody says yes, or we need to do something, but we still haven't really been able to put our fingers on how we're really going to address that. And I just wondered if you had any thoughts on that. Thank you.
Thank you. I mean, these are two like huge comments that y'all both made three, you know, that I'm really resonating with a lot. And obviously it's, you know, it's a very deep, far-reaching, you know, conversation, which is what I think impacted me so deeply that first day. It's like there's so many layers to it, you know. It's not just one thing, you know what I mean? It's so multi-layered as to how it all folds together. So, you know, I think that definitely that's what's so great about the Empower campaign is this is just the beginning of it. And I think with all of this kind of feedback and information, we can continue to evolve it and develop it so that it really reaches the numerous reasons and takes us into the deeper fabric of how did we get to this place and why is it kind of continuously perpetuated? You know what I mean? Because that's what you're saying. I mean, that's crazy that was told to you. That's crazy scary because the amount of people growing up in church and their families, and this is the foundation of their whole belief system and how they feel their worth is and who are they making proud and who they're not making proud and who they're serving and not. It is very deep and wide and very terrifying to think how many young people are confused about how to be honest about what's going on in their life. So I think that, you know, I really appreciate your comments and I agree, you know, that there is definitely going to be steps and growth to this entire campaign and we can focus on these different realms. And I hope that you help me lead it and you help us lead it, you know, so that we can figure out how to really start to penetrate in those other areas. So I really appreciate everybody's feedback and thought and conversations. And this is an open dialogue that we will be having, you know, to continue to evolve it and grow and get where it needs to get.
And with that, I want to thank our program and all of you for coming.